Hi everyone. In this video I want to show you how to analyze your results from the hand washing experiment. You'll look at the photographs. Let me get me out of the way. You'll look at the photographs. I would recommend looking at them on your computer, whether you can enlarge them or they can show you the natural colors. But what you look at MSA 1. And we're going to look at each one of these plates. So we said there were 4 different people that did this, or 8 different people that did the experiment. 4 did the hand wash and touched the MSA plates. 4 did the hand wash and touched the Saburad plates. And then there's a table where you can record your data. So there's 4 MSA plates and 4 Saburad plates. What you're going to do is go to each plate and notice that I put a 0, 1, 2, 3. And the 0 is going to be the hand touch that somebody did after just rinsing their hands and shaking off the water and touching the plate. When I look at these, all these are separate colonies, all these little white specks. And I'm going to always call plate or section 0, I'm going to give that a rating of 3. The rating corresponds to what I'm going to call relative abundance. I'm not actually counting colonies. I'm not counting bacteria. I'm just saying, is there a little bit of bacteria? Is there a lot of bacteria? And I'm just going to give it a rating of a relative abundance. So if I call this 3, then I go to section 1 and I say, section 1 after 1 hand wash looks a whole lot like section 0. So I'm going to give that a 3 also. When I look at section 2, I think, oh, section 2 looks a whole lot like section 0 and 1. So I'm going to give that a 3 also. When I look at this third the section 3 after 3 hand washes, I think that looks like there's more colonies there. So I might give that a 4. And so every plate you're going to end up with 4 numbers. So in that first plate, the first section I'm always going to give a 3. And then I'm going to compare the others next to it. And so even though, for example, if I look at this plate, and you can see the abundance of colonies there, I'm going to give that a 3. On this one, there's not nearly as much, but I'm still going to give that a 3, and I'm just going to compare that plate to itself. What that does is it accounts for the differences in how people are doing this experiment. This person looks like they just touched their fingertips and they didn't touch it very hard, whereas this person looks like they put, more of their finger down on the plate. So we can still get data from each one of these. So you're going to end up getting 4 numbers from each plate. You'll put them in your table, and then you'll calculate the average. So the average of all these 3's is 3. We don't know what these numbers are yet, but you'll get an average, and you can do it as, a number, point, another decimal. You only have to go one unit past a decimal point. And you're going to have an average for each of these sections. 0 hand washes, 1, 2, and 3. Now, you're going to do the same thing when you go to the Saburad plates. The colonies look different, though. Look at these colonies are really white and kind of big colonies. Sometimes people get confused and they look at these and they say, oh, there's 1 colony and this one has a lot more. But actually, when you look here, there's so many colonies that they're just close together. So this one has a lot more bacteria, or I'm sorry, this is yeast, isn't it? This one has a lot more yeast than this one. So don't be tricked by that. But again, just like with the MSA plates, the 0 section, you're always going to give it a 3. And so you decide compared to that, what's my number? Another thing to notice with Saburad is these really white big colonies are the transient yeast, the yeast that the bread yeast that the person dipped their hands in. Notice on this plate that there's all these tiny little colonies, and there's some right here. There's not very many on this plate, though. Not very many of those tiny colonies. There's a few right there. But what these are the resident yeast. Notice that some people have more resident yeast than other people. And it's just a variation in our normal microbiota. When you're doing the Saburad plates, you only want to evaluate the bread yeast because remember the Savarad plates, we're evaluating our transient organism, not our normal microbiota. Okay, so you're going to get 4 sets of 4 numbers for Savarad. You'll put them in here. You'll get your average. And then what you're going to do is you're going to graph these data on the graph. Now remember, you're going to graph the averages. Remember what is your independent variable and what is your dependent variable. We're not counting the number of colonies, we're counting the relative abundance, just kind of how much are there. Okay, so do those analyses and plot your graph, and then I'll ask you some questions about that.